Hello again. In our last few videos, we learned how to find the distance between 2 points and how to find the midpoint between 2 points. Now, let's put both ideas together in one final example. So this example I want to look at is example number 5. Example 5 is given the points A, -3, 2, and B, 5, 8. Find two things. We're going to find the distance between A and B. And then the second thing we're going to do is find, oops, this is why math teachers should always use pencils. Midpoint between A, oops, and B as well. That almost was a disaster. Okay. So the distance between A and B and the midpoint between A and B. Okay. So this is example number 5, and we're going to do both of those things. So let's first of all begin with the distance. So recall the distance formula. The distance formula is D equals the square root of x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared, right? And we're going to substitute the values that we have. So the values are 5 and 8 and -3 and 2. Substituting the values here, and again, it doesn't matter um, which one you use or how you use it, it really doesn't matter. But I'm going to write these over here for your personal reference. So we have that and that. And again, this is represented by x, y, x, y. And again, it doesn't matter which one you use. We can say I'm just going to stick to the order in which I wrote them. But you can write it in any order and you'll still get the same exact outcome. Because if you're going from here to here or from here to here, it doesn't matter. It's the same distance, right? All right, so x sub 2, we have 5 minus, and then notice it's a -3, so we're going to have to put that in parentheses, -3 squared, plus y sub 2, which is going to be a +8, easy, and then y sub 1 is just going to be a -2, okay? So we can just write that as simply that, okay? So this is a positive, therefore we can just go ahead and subtract that, and then we're going to square it, okay? So once we get there, then we can just compute this. Again, this is where you have to be careful. So we have 5 minus a -3, which is the same as 5 plus 3, which is the same as 8. So we have 8 squared over here. Okay. Then we're going to add 8 minus 2. 8 minus 2 is going to give us 6 squared. And then from there, we have 64. 8 times 8 is 64 plus 36. So the final result is D, or not the final result. We're one step away from there. So 64 plus 36 is going to give us root 10, or excuse me, root 100, and that is a perfect square, which results in 10 units being the distance between those points. So the distance between the 2 points is 10 units. Now let's find the midpoint. So recall the midpoint formula. So the midpoint formula is m equals x sub 1 plus x sub 2, and it's the average formula, also known as y sub 1 plus y sub 2 divided by 2. So m equals, all we have to do is take the values and put them together. So we have -3 plus 5 divided by 2. Then we have 2 plus 8 divided by 2. Okay, and you can write this in a line if it helps you to write it in a line. For example, write it if you were doing PEMDAS, where you have parentheses, -3 plus 5 divided by 2. You can write it like that too. So what I mean is this: if you were writing it as -3 plus 5 divided by 2, you can write it like that as well. 2 plus 8 divided by 2. You can write it like that. Okay, so that's just as a reference point. Okay, so this is the same thing. Just put a reference right there. Okay, so again, simplifying this, we have -3 plus 5. Again, you subtract and take the sign of the bigger number. This is going to give me 2 divided by 2. So 2 divided by 2, comma. Then 4 plus 2 is going to give me 10. 10 divided by 2. Okay? So now we can simplify that even further to get our value. 2 divided by 2 is going to give me 1. And 10 divided by 2 is going to give me 5. So the midpoint location for those particular points is 1, 5, which is the distance of 10 units and the midpoint of 1, 5. Now, let's review the key ideas from video 1. So the key ideas from video 1, we dealt with the distance formula. So the distance formula is d equals x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared. And the midpoint formula is x sub 1 plus x sub 2 divided by 2, y sub 1 plus y sub 2 divided by 2. Now, here are the 3 things I want you to remember. First, the distance formula comes from the Pythagorean theorem. Secondly, the distance measures length. The distance measures length. That's what we discovered in figuring out the right triangle. So the distance measures the length. So it can never be negative. If you're finding the distance, it can never be negative. The third thing is that the midpoint is found by averaging, by dividing by 2. By dividing by 2. The midpoint is found by averaging the x coordinate and averaging the x coordinates and averaging the y coordinates. If you can correctly identify the coordinates, substitute them carefully, and pay attention to negative signs, you should be able to solve both types of problems successfully. So that completes video 1, distance and midpoint. In our next video, we will move into graphs of equations, intercepts, and symmetry. Again, thanks for watching.